Welcome everybody to After the Pandemic at Strathclyde Union. And an especially warm welcome to all the anchor women of the Walking Forest, and for joining us here after your walk this morning already through the streets of Glasgow, carrying the felled tree, making nature visible in our streets, and we thank you for that. And you're very welcome in this space, and we look forward to you telling your story. And then after your session here today, we will be processing again to the Brigget, and we will invite people from within the space to join you and to help document that story, and then welcome you back here at Rotten Row Gardens at dusk for the end of your procession and your vigil. So I'd like to welcome you to the stage now. So who's speaking? Anne-Marie, hi. Yes. Ta-da. Oh, hang on. It's very tall.
Sorry, this is designed for definitely not a female. I know, I'm an average size female. Hang on. Sorry, what do I do? This one.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, not ideal. Okay, brilliant, that's on. Hi everyone. Audience. Welcome. Thanks for coming in. Welcome people who've been with us all morning. Welcome people who've just arrived. Welcome people who've been on a long journey with us. Some of us have been on the Walking Forest journey since about 2017. So I'm going to just start with a few slides that tell the history of the project and how it came to be. And then there's a 15-minute film, a fantastic film that's been made by Coventry City of Culture, all about the work we've been doing in Coventry from May until October, and still going this year. And we have quite a few people from Coventry here who helped make that happen. So thank you for being in Glasgow as well. So the Walking Forest story. The story begins just before the centenary of the women's suffrage vote, which was granted in 1918. So in 1918, some women were unable to vote in this country after probably about 60 years of campaigning to get the vote. So that was marked in 2018 with some celebrations. And yes, that picture is in our book. So we started to kind of rummage through the archives, and what we were really interested in looking at with the suffragettes was how they had a contact with the natural world, how that might have been an inspiration to them in their campaigning and the fantastic work they do. Anyone that's interested in activism in this country, I deeply recommend looking up the suffragists and the suffragettes and really exploring deeper into the archives. There's a few stars, go beyond the star, ignore the stars, dig deeper. There are some fantastic ordinary people, thousands of activists all around this country and many other countries that were campaigning for equal rights for women and to elevate the status of women in political, cultural, social systems. And it was incredibly diverse, the campaign. And these women did call on the natural world for inspiration. A lot of the artwork and the design includes elements of nature and nature imagery. And we found in our research an arboretum that was planted by these women right in the middle of their campaign. So if you think in 1918, they finally got the vote. In 1909 to 1912, when this arboretum was planted, they had no idea whether they were going to get the vote. Look at what they're wearing. These women were being, many of the women in this picture were arrested and imprisoned multiple times and force-fed. And to look at that picture, I don't think you'd be able to tell. These people were the radicals of their time. And some of the women that were commemorated in this arboretum were suffragists, which means that they were campaigning using conventional means of kind of letter writing, lobbying politicians. They weren't breaking the law. They were going on marches, but they were law-abiding in their aims. And then there was also the suffragettes who took a more radical approach and weren't scared about breaking the law to make their case. So this arboretum, which is a series of trees for people who don't know an arboretum, was planted by the whole movement, women from the whole movement. It united the movement. And at that moment, when these women put these trees in the ground, they didn't know whether they were going to succeed in their aims. They were in the middle of their campaign. So if you kind of fast forward to now, some of us have been campaigning for the climate, to try and raise awareness of climate change and environmental loss and ecological crisis for many, many years. Some of us are just finding out about it now. And we don't know if our actions are going to make a difference, but we still act. And action is a fantastic way to respond to how we're feeling right now about the crisis in our world. So these people were acting in very many different ways and planting trees. And we were really inspired by that. And what happened to the Arboretum is that in the 1960s, the whole forest of trees was bulldozed and one tree was left, just one tree. And it was planted by this woman on the right in the black outfit. Again, amazing outfit for tree planting. And she planted, her name was Rosela Martini Yates, and she planted a black pine tree. There's some tiny seedlings at the front that you can see. And they come from this tree here on the right, 110 years on, that tree became this. So her actions back then became this tree. And we're taking seeds from this tree and planting them and telling the story of this woman and that arboretum and the actions of these people, these women who are all of our ancestors and continue to inspire us and give us courage in the kind of actions we need to take now. So this is some of us collecting seeds and some of our seedlings. And then some of the seeds get gifted to people to inspire them and bring them courage in their work. And we've gifted seeds at the COP climate talks. Lucy and Shelley, two of the artists from Walking Forest, went to the climate talks in 2018 in Poland by train and gifted seeds to activists from around the world to thank them for the work that they're doing. And this year we've been doing the same, particularly working with people from the Climate Vulnerable Forum and countries which are at the forefront of climate change to say, we acknowledge what you're doing, your fantastic work, and we're supporting you wholeheartedly. And we want to just acknowledge your brilliance in standing up and also to bring courage if we can and our support to you through this gift, through this seed. And so, yeah, the suffragettes, hugely inspiring. They had an incredible network of campaigning across the country, which was hidden. A lot of their stories are hidden in our history. The history of this country doesn't necessarily forefront women, so it is worth digging. So a lot of these stories showed this incredible communication systems happening even before mobile phones, where marches were organized within a week. Thousands of people came to one space. How did they do it? How did they do it? So we're trying to find out, how did they network? They were kind of like a mycelium network of fungi or some kind of really active network of women that just were able to make things happen. And so we're also inspired by forests, how forests and trees communicate. They do communicate underground. No tree is singular. Trees communicate underground. If you look up mycelium or mycorrhizal fungi, you'll find out about a whole level of communication. Basically, a forest brain is in the soil underground. We're only just discovering that. And it teaches us a lot about how we might communicate better with one another and share resources. So these are the kind of underpinnings of Walking Forest, which I've whizzed through. The Bath Eastern pine tree, this incredible seed that holds a story. Forest systems, global and local activism and celebrating and marking that, and our women's heritage, our ancestors, and how they might inspire us in the future. And now I'm going to move on to Coventry, where we've been working this year. And as soon as we started working in Coventry, we came across the HS2 high-speed 2 rail link, which is for people that live in Scotland, you may not know about this, but it's a new rail network that's linking London up to some northern cities. It's costing billions of pounds, and it's ploughing through over 100 woodlands and ancient woodlands, cutting down thousands and thousands of trees and destroying habitats. And a lot of the work that's being done is illegal. So habitats are being destroyed where there are birds nesting, bats nesting, badger sets, all sorts of things are being violated, and it's cutting through the heart of England. And people are very distraught about this. And as one of our participants in Coventry said, it's a violation of our environment that's hidden in plain sight. It's happening, and people don't know what to do or how to express themselves about it. So this was very much in the air when we got to Coventry, so it became part of our story. The tree downstairs is from the HS2 site. I'm going to shush now, and you can watch the film because I think we talk about it in the film. So, where's the film? Might be further back. Let's have a look. Yeah. How do I start the film? I don't.
To have care at the centre of everything we do, care of each other, care of self, care of community, care of woodlands, care of river, care of air, care of earth, care of land. To place care right at the heart of every single interaction, that would change almost everything. Early in the morning, with the wind on your face, we begin a journey to walk together until dusk. You bring your courage and you bring your heart. On we go with our walking forest.
We are walking forest. We are walking forest. We carry a felled tree. We carry a felled tree. And reap for our world. And we reap for our world.
The Walking Forest project is a piece of performative action. So we want to draw attention to a very, very important cause, which is saving the environment. So we wanted to bring it in visually for people to actually see the impact of what's happening.
So we're walking from dawn till dusk today and tomorrow with part of a felled tree that was cut down to make way for HS2.
We've been walking through the city centre, stopping at various different places to really think in more depth.
The project really aligned with all of the things that we wanted to do. And so we thought this was an amazing project to get Coventry women standing up for what they believe in, bringing them all together and making grassroots connections.
About 18 months ago, I became quite actively involved in the Stop HS2 campaign. I'd heard that the Cubbington pear tree was going to be a victim of the route that had been chosen by HS2. A tree like that would be home and host to over 2,000 species of wildlife. It was really important, really special. And for me, it was not the end, but the start. If I can do something, anything, to stop it.
You have no right to take down this tree. We don't want a railway. We don't want 108 ancient woodlands to be destroyed for the sake of HS2.
It's a hugely ambitious project to carry a tree through a city for 2 days and to take that space, which I think is vital. It's really important, especially for women, to be in public space and own that space.
It feels like it's quite unique to each woman, but really at the heart of it is the impact that we as human beings are having on the ecosystem that we're part of.
Walking Forest actually started in a studio with the 4 lead artists, myself and 3 others.
We found ourselves really working together as collaborators, having quite different practices creatively, but we shared something in common, which was a profound sense that we had a role to play at a time of ecological climate emergency.
And we got together kind of inspired by what the suffragettes had been doing and wondered what would they be doing today.
We felt pretty sure that if they were around today, women like Rose LaMartine Yates, women like Lettice Floyd, that they would be like us, really questioning how we support life on Earth and how we speak out against what's being destroyed.
And at my feet are some very small black pine saplings. And these are some of the radical systems from a tree planted by a suffragette over 100 years ago. The women that planted these trees had no idea that what they were fighting for was going to happen. The change they needed was going to happen. They planted them in the hope that it would.
In this place, over 100 years ago, working class Coventry women, chalked slogans and notices of meetings on the pavement.
Many years ago, brave women spoke out with courage, and a suffragette, somebody called Dora Russell, who was a feminist, socialist campaigner, she spoke from this spot to galvanise actions for women's social political union here. And she was responsible for the Women's Peace Caravan that left Edinburgh in 1958, gathering up women as they went, rather like this. The other thing we learned was that suffragettes held camps. They gathered women. They called people together to exchange their stories, their skills, but also to prepare them to speak, to be on marches. That was where the idea of holding a camp came from.
We came to an in-person camp with a group of amazing women from Coventry, and really that was a chance to go on a bit of a deeper journey.
Oh my God, I remember first time coming into the circle and being so inspired and going home and literally being energized and being like, yes, I want to create.
It was amazing. It was such a diverse population. The youngest amongst us is just a teenager and the eldest is a 70-year-old.
The artist read this poem, which is all about the mycelium network underneath the trees. So that's a fungal network that kind of extends from the roots of the trees for miles and miles and connects all the trees, and you have a mother tree that through the mycelium can feed her surrounding trees and protect them. I find that really like a beautiful thought that we're all connected through things that we can't see.
The whole entire system, whether it's wildlife, plants, humans, we're all connected, we're all codependent.
Much of the intelligence of a forest is hidden under the ground. So there's something about unearthing things, putting things into plain sight that we all know. And that's what Walking Forest is about.
My passion is to do with gathering people together and creating a space where we can have conversations that can sometimes be quite difficult.
I think something that really sits with me is the thought that the human race is probably one of the only species that you could take out of Earth and the world would flourish, rather than if you took out any individual animal, it would make a massive impact. That really sits with me, and I try and think of that when I'm going through my daily life. What can I do that's going to have the least impact on the environment?
So we stopped and we were joined by some children who helped us to think about what we love about the natural world, what we're grateful for, and also what we're grieving for. And I thought that was such a poignant moment, a sort of really lovely intergenerational moment, and coming together with the children.
Children, I want to invite you to come and pick up these stones that weigh heavy upon you, these sadnesses, and I want you to give them to the women of Walking Forest. we are going to put them into our pockets. We are going to take that from you and bear that with us on our journey.
The relationships between those women started in May, and it's been a real astonishing marvel to us to witness the way they have committed the time, how they've worked creatively, and how rich and deep some of those friendships and working partnerships now go between them.
So I've got this drawing workshop that I'm running within the procession, and I just really hope that I can kind of teach people of how to see nature from a slightly different perspective.
I think it's also about voice and whose voices are heard. And one of the things that Walking Forest is doing is making space for voices that have not been heard.
People of Coventry! People of Coventry! A tree has fallen! A tree has fallen! We call upon you! We call upon you! To hear our pain! To hear our pain!
And it feels so overwhelming. But we have to come together and we have to make a plan and we have to take one step at a time towards stopping consumerism from devouring our planet.
I earned the name of being a digger diver. This is what they call somebody who climbs on the machinery when the work's going on to try and halt work. You usually get arrested at the end of it. And actually, I've had a couple of police officers when I've been arrested before actually say, really, we're on your side. They don't like them either, you know.
The stories that are not told are the stories that have the power to change things. And if, like the sort of mycelium networks under the forest floor, if they remain hidden, then we don't understand where that regeneration comes from, where that hope comes from. And hearing those stories will inspire everybody.
There are people all over the world dying right now of starvation, in floods, in hurricanes.
Worldwide, the economic and health disparities are being borne by the poor and marginalized communities. People are beginning to read between the lines. We have one world and we all live in it. Let us fight for a world with no borders and base it on human need for the many and not greed for the few.
We're not doing this because we want to carry a tree around Coventry. We're doing this because we want to take some of the campaigning that happens on social media and online out onto the street and make it tangible and visible.
Yeah, what I love about this action, and I think what makes it very powerful, is this act of endurance that all of us women are connected in. So we're carrying this very, very heavy tree from morning till evening.
And it's all women carrying it, so it's probably going to be a really unusual sight for people, which might stop them in their tracks.
We want the kids to say, look at that tree, what are they doing? And we want to be able to help to answer that question.
I think what creativity, what art, what theatre, what ritual, what performance does is that it creates a different memory of that place. And that's often the place where new thoughts, ideas, feelings can come in.
I think it'll be quite compelling because it's not only the sight of us carrying a tree, but I think it'll also be visually very striking, what we're wearing.
I've kind of taken on the role of designing the pauldrons, which are the sort of shoulder pads we're wearing to help carry the tree so it doesn't kind of create pressure points on our shoulders while we're carrying it.
We went to places which would sell used clothing and collected garments from them. We stuffed our pauldrons and made something cushiony.
From the way that we're dressed to the fact we're carrying a tree, this is like massively sparked the curiosity of people of Coventry.
And people are really sort of paying attention, very much like a funeral procession, but perhaps one that people have never seen before, but a funeral for nature.
From here, the tree is going to continue its journey on to Glasgow, to COP26.
At the COP climate talks, there are no women delegates going for our government to represent us.
And being able to represent our city with this tree in such an important forum is really something quite special.
And what we hope to do there is be listening to and unearthing and sharing stories, and also to create a space for those kind of conversations between people who aren't normally represented.
I think that when we are looking at the facts and the figures, they're so overwhelming. We can't possibly take it all in. But I think what this project has helped me understand is that our hearts can. This is about our hearts. This is about how our hearts connect.
We have been told that we are in competition with each other. We have been told that we are selfish, and that is not true. And we can imagine and build a better future by telling ourselves the stories of our fierce love, of our connectedness, and of our hope. So tell better stories every day.
People are scared and worried, but actually there is a lot of us and we are not powerless and we can do something about it.
The connections that women have made with one another, I think, have been absolutely fantastic. And I think through that we can learn a lot from each other that we'll take into our work and into the city.
I think that there'll be different traces, a bit like the mycelium underground, different connections, many of which we won't know about at all. Of in those streets and in those places, maybe the memory of what's happened is left.
I think the way we all live now doesn't seem to be helping us. So a deeper connection to the natural world, finding your voice and being able to find courage to stand up for what you believe in, connecting to each other and making with our hands, which I think is a really radical act. I think all those things are beneficial to everyone. So I think, yeah, I would hope that there's been a really positive impact.
Although this is a 10-year project for Walking Forest and we're going to be part of that, and there'll be intentional planting within Coventry, what it leaves to Coventry is that legacy. So the women who we've worked with are Coventry women, and they are here in the city and they are empowered and emboldened to make the next steps in their own lives and for their own city. So I think that impact's been huge.
That's the first time a lot of us have seen this edit of this film. So it's actually being premiered on Saturday. So this is a preview for all of us. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm quite emotional after seeing that here. And thank you all of you, the kind of next generation there listening in to be the witness of this film and this project. What I want to do is just to we're going to open up to a few questions in a second, but what I'd like to do is, Becky, would you come and read us a poem? Becky's one of the women from Coventry who's a poet as well. She's going to read us one of her poems, and then we're going to share a little bit about our experience already today, where we've been carrying the tree around Glasgow.
Which one would you like? Okay. My heart, although hurt, was light, unscathed and tainted by human touch. Even I'd been through so much, retained its shape as an always my predictable source of knowing. No other footsteps except my own had trampled over this land. Even the prints from the years before had faded like a wound that never really was so deep. All but a superficial paper cut, so quick to bleed, but left no trace. How could it leave me here, so open with no way back? A footpath so well trodden that even when abandoned, the grass can never grow back. So changed by human touch, a mud bath through the winter, ankle twisting dry roots in the summer. no more desirable to the hiker. They find another to wreck, usually where there are signs that this land has been trampled before. Why? Because it's easier. There are no brambles to cut through. The faint scar of a ready-made path, just visible to those who look. This one's called the Mother Tree. I used to look out onto the green, that grand old oak standing so tall. In sync with the seasons, its beauty changed, home to creatures so big and so small. In rain, you sheltered me and kept me dry. In the heat, you gave me shade. You gave safety to so many birds, for in you their home was made. Sometimes you were the best place for a swing, until the ropes got old and weak, and you were always the counting tree when people played hide and seek. I never did realize what you meant to me until that day they chopped you down. Now, whenever I see that empty space, I just can't help but frown. No longer am I woken by a song or the sound of rustling leaves. It's not just us that miss you. For the mother tree, the whole land grieves.
Thank you. Thanks, Becky. So for those of you who are listening to us now, I'm Ruth, another of the artists from Walking Forest. And some of us, most of us in this room, is that we've been carrying the same tree in Glasgow today. We started at dawn here in Rotten Row Gardens, and we've gone to Glasgow Green. And on the way there, we spoke about some of the very feisty suffragettes that there are in Glasgow here. We went down to Glasgow Green and we were met by some activists who wore aprons with facts about birds, the birds that we're losing, endangered birds. And we had a meeting between the birds and the trees to talk about this balance between what we're losing and our courage and our hopes. And we walked along the river and we, with some clay, we made a seed. And then we walked further along. I don't know if you know that there's a statue, La Passionara, and she's like this down by on the river down there. And she is representative of women who fought in the Spanish Civil War against fascism. And we talked about the things that we're standing up for, why we're walking today. And then we walked up to St. Enoch, who's the mother of St. Mungo. So the mother and the patron saint of Glasgow. And we thought about our mothers and we thought about the beginnings. And then we walked right up through Buchanan Street, that big shopping place there where we walked, where we were witnessed with the tree. And we went to Glasgow Green and we talked about independence and the governed free state, how we need to take things into our own hands, that we're the people that we have been waiting for, and you're the people that we've been waiting for. And then we've come back here. And so we've already been out there. And what I'd just like to do, because we're also live streaming here, I understand, so thanks for anyone who's watching on the live stream, is to just have some of the Walking Forest women, just let's come up here together on the stage, a few of you, to just share a little bit about how it's been this morning, and then we can answer some questions. So if a few people can come up, those from Scotland and from Coventry, do come up with me up here. Thanks, Birgit. Yeah, let's come up. Lucy, if you want to. Come. Thanks. Connie, do you want to come up? Oh, there were steps. I hadn't seen the steps. I'm lifting a bit, so it's easier that way. Amazing. I just thought if we were here together. So yeah, we'll just share a little bit about what we've noticed really
What have you noticed today? Have you been walking? What have you noticed? What have you observed in yourself, in what we've been doing? And then we'll see if any of you have got any questions.
Hello, hi, I'm Bethan. I'm not from Glasgow, but I'm from Dumfries, if anyone knows there, tiny wee town. But yeah, I haven't really been involved in much climate activism before. This is really my first time. And I didn't realise how emotional it would be today. Like, I kept finding myself with tears in my eyes and stuff. Yeah, and I think it's something that we all need to get involved in, and because, you know, we keep waiting for the government to change things, and they're not, nothing's happening, and we can't wait for our, like, sorry, I'm trying to put my thing in what I'm trying to say to words, but I feel like I never found my place in climate activism. I never felt like I found my place, but here today I definitely have, and I was waiting so long to find my place in climate activism. Definitely found it here today. Yeah, thank you.
How's it been for you?
Hello, I'm Martina. I was on the video there. I've witnessed firsthand lots of trees being felled for the HS2 project. And it's a real raw position that we're in with HS2. I know that our audience here are not necessarily local to where that rail line runs, but just a couple of facts about it and why we're so outraged. The project is running so far behind schedule and so over budget that not only have we lost great big swathes of not just ancient woodland, which obviously hosts lots and lots of wildlife, but also new young planted woodland like Diamond Wood, which is in Coventry. That particular wood was only 19 years old, so only as old as some of you probably here in the room. And the people who planted that wood in Coventry planted it with the hope that it was going to grow into another mature woodland for everybody to enjoy and to host all of that wildlife. And that too has been felled indiscriminately along with its neighbouring crackly wood, home to lots and lots of ancient trees. HS2 is now forecast to cost in excess of £100 billion. We could actually buy 40 super hospitals with that money. The rail line is running currently between Birmingham and London, and it won't actually be finished to carry a passenger